Welcome, Perennial Pride listeners. Tom Savantry here. Thanks for joining me on this podcast. Today, I'm going to be by myself, no guest. Just wanted to do a quick little hitter on a topic I know is near and dear to everyone's hearts, is taxes. Now, when I started thinking about what I was going to share today, I was reflecting on the history of taxes. And, really at the heart of the matter is it is our biggest expense we're all going to face in our lives as it relates to our wealth. And it ties into our freedom and use of our dollars. When we think about our money and the income that comes in by your business or your job, that it's not what you make, it's really what you get to keep and use. Really, that gives you the freedom and control to live the life that you want for yourself, your families, and things that matter to you. So being cognizant of that is really key. And as we did another episode too with Jeremy Kessler back on episode 17, that we can actually be patriotic and follow the set of incentives that our government wants us to pursue, and we get tax breaks for it by helping them grow the economy and support things that they think matter to us in this country, to help this country as great as it is and continue that going forward. So when I think about the tax code and the history of it back in, say, 1913, I think is when it first started, and it was a one pager, right? It was only had one page, and I think the tax rate was single digits, I think 2%, and it was supposed to not be permanent. But here we are today, over 100 years later, and the tax code has ballooned to an enormous amount of complexity. I think the last time I looked, there are just about 7,000 pages in the IRS code. And when you factor in the regulations and guidelines that come along with it, it's over 75,000 pages. It would take the average reader nearly 14, 15 weeks just to read all of it. So who could really know it all? And so that's why it's important to obviously consult with your tax advisors and also learn yourself too by podcasts like this or reading. We're always going to have to continue to learn and grow and read these things because it is constantly changing. And so, there is always the thought that the wealthy people don't pay taxes well, and a lot of it because they obviously have good consultants, but they also are open-minded to learning new areas where they could get some benefits of taxes in terms of deductions or credits or whatever. And they're willing to open up their eyes because they know they get to keep more of their wealth. And anyone you ask today where you think tax rates are going, every CPA I run into basically says they're only going one direction. And there's a lot of other factors that may be driving that, with debt in our country and cost for benefits around Medicare, Social Security, all those things that are going to put increasing pressure on the government to have to tax. So no guarantees of that, but keeping more of our wealth, I think, at least gives us more control and freedom of our wealth and allows us to sort of do the things we really want. And so today we're going to cover one really broad topic. Also, where at the Perennial Pride company, we find that the best place to store our cash, right? This is money that's safe, liquid, and is free from loss, is in properly designed whole life insurance products. And for some people, they know a little bit about it, but it's in the kind of general financial world, I think there is a lack of awareness around the power of using these sorts of tools and how it fits into your overall broader financial life. So I'm just going to cover how life insurance can be hugely tax advantaged in a whole host of ways. And it starts with the contributions. Most people think about reducing taxes. One of the things people do like are Roth IRAs. And Roth IRAs are retirement accounts, government retirement accounts that were created after the pre-tax versions, like a 401k and IRA, that here you put in after-tax money and that money grows tax-free. And then you can use that down the road, all those gains tax-free as well. So really powerful tool, but we can only put in so much. And there's other ways to do some backdoor sort of Roth we won't cover today, but it's still limited for a lot of folks. So one of the options for folks who have significant wealth and have large incomes and are looking to grow their wealth tax-free, one option is in whole life insurance. It's a really tremendous tool to do that. So similar to Roth IRAs, you're putting your money in that's already been taxed, and then the dollars that are building up in those policies are also growing tax deferred. Now, on paper, it's tax deferred. And so we'll go through a little bit more of how to utilize those dollars, but it's all growing tax deferred in that, and the cash is growing every single year. And there's a guaranteed cash amount by contract through these types of policies. So you know at minimum what will be in there. So it's a tremendous tool, especially if you're starting young and early. But even if you're starting late, it still can be a massive benefit. So you get the benefit of the tax deferral. And so that's one piece of it. The second piece is if you're working with the types of companies we work with, private, they are mutual insurance companies. That means they're not public companies, not traded on the stock exchanges. They're private companies, and every year these companies they can pay a dividend. Now it's not guaranteed. However, they've been paying them for well over 100 plus years, and all the years I've owned my policies, I've always gotten a dividend. And when you get that dividend on your anniversary of your policy, those dollars come to you and you're not taxed on them. So if you got a dividend from a stock company, you're going to get taxed on that as income. Well, in this environment here, this comes back into your own policy and they're not taxed. And so they grow in, again, add to your current cash value and now sets a additional floor, right? So that your cash that's guaranteed plus the dividends you accumulate each year go into your cash value. And now those dollars are all growing tax deferred. And once you continue to further along you are on your policies, dividends hopefully will grow because you have cash that's also growing, and this thing can get some momentum very quickly. So that's the second component. So you got your cash that's guaranteed, you got their dividends that are flowing through that also are not taxed. And so those are really a good benefit to grow some tax for dollars. However, one of the unique things within whole life insurance is to be able to use of those dollars. Unlike maybe a 401k or IRA, those money dollars are going to be deferred, and unless you want to pay a penalty and taxes, you can't use them. And then even a Roth, you can get your withdrawals out. Things you've deposited, you can withdraw them out tax free, but any of the gains only could be used later in life after 59 and a half without any penalties. So here, within the whole life insurance environment, you can actually use those dollars all through life, right? This is money that you should be thinking about utilizing in some fashion or form. Obviously, you want to have some saved dollars that you're going to use for emergencies and opportunities, but then we can use those dollars in the life insurance policy for things like college or buying a home, or what we'd like to do is also use them for investments that can create additional cash flow. So there's two ways that you can leverage your cash value all through life. One is withdrawals. Now, withdrawals, you can withdraw directly from your life insurance policy. The only hang up on this one, especially early, is that you can't really easily put it back, right? So I wouldn't want to do this early on as you're building up and capitalizing your policy in the early years. But down the road, you can start withdrawing your dollars that you contribute because it's your dollars. They're already after tax and there's no tax implication. You're just getting a return of the money you put into it. And the unique part of whole life insurance policies that you can withdraw everything you put in first. And they call this FIFO, first in, first out, an accounting term, that you can take your money out first and use all those dollars initially. And then you can get to the gain. So say you have contributed $100,000 into your policy over a period of time. Your cash value is, say, $250,000. Well, you have a $150,000 gain on that. If you start withdrawing those dollars, you are subject to taxation. So the way to get around this is to leverage the loan provision that's in your whole life insurance policy. So you can ask the life insurance company for a loan, and that's guaranteed by contract for them to offer that, and they'll use your cash value as collateral. And the beauty of it is that the cash value that's sitting in your policy continues to grow undisturbed because you haven't actually touched it. You're just using it as collateral. And similar to the nature of a home equity line of credit or a margin loan from your stock portfolio, you can leverage an asset and use someone else's money to finance things in your life. And this is a whole broader concept around IBC, infinite banking, and family banking that you may have heard of, that you're leveraging someone else's money, in this scenario, a life insurance company, to finance things in your life and allow your dollars to continue to grow and compound for long periods of time. So you can take out that loan and you just ask for it. There's no credit checks, there's no applications to, and there's no, they can't deny it. It's guaranteed by the loan provision in your contract. and then you can get those dollars, and now it's on your terms. There is an interest cost to it and payment that are associated, but you get to determine when you pay that. So you have control over those dollars. You pay that when you want. There is a scenario that you may not even pay those back down the road. As you get older, you can carry a debt balance through a life insurance company, and then when you pass, then your death benefit, which is typically is always going to be higher than your cash value, will pay off your debt that you owe to life insurance company, and then the remaining goes to your heirs in the form of a death benefit, whatever's left over. So it's a beautiful way to take the money you put in, that you can use that as a withdrawal and use as cash, and then tax free, and then use the loan provision tied to the policy to extract the other value of the gain inside your policy, and then use those dollars tax free because it's not income. Any loan you get anywhere is not taxable. So it kind of works the same way. And so the last piece obviously gets into the death benefit, and the death benefit by nature not income taxable, right? There might be, if you have a large estate, it could fall into an estate tax issue, an inheritance tax issue, but leave that for a second. But the income tax on is not income taxable, right? So this is replacing a loss, you as an asset, right? Just like anything else, like you have an auto policy and you have an accident, you have insurance, and you get reimbursed dollars for the loss of, say, your car to replace your car. That's not income. Same thing with life insurance. So when we get life insurance, it's protecting us as a loss, right? Our loss of ability to earn income and produce is the death benefit. And so that's why we advocate getting human life value. The most you can get protects you in your life. And so those dollars come into your family's world tax free, income tax free, because they're replacing a loss of you. And so it's a significant benefit. And for those who have estate tax issues, and you have to have sizable amounts for, I think individuals are on 12 million, and for a couple double that. But they've been talking about bringing that down. It's fluctuated over time. So more people are getting caught into that. So using whole life insurance is one way to also, with the use of trust as well, to structure these assets in a way that they avoid any estate inheritance taxes, and they could be passed to the next generation. A second way to look at this too, in a simpler way too, is go back to the Roth IRA for a second, because that is a beneficial tool to grow wealth tax free. So as a lot of folks are going into retirement with sizable amounts of assets in, say, a IRA or 401k that will eventually be taxed, having this sort of policy in place, a whole life insurance policy, you basically use cheaper money to get a big death benefit, and the death benefit can actually be used to pay for any Roth conversions you do. So imagine a situation that you had this life insurance policy with a death benefit, and you had a large IRA account. When a spouse dies, you can use those dollars, the death benefit dollars, the tax-free money, to pay for a Roth conversion of your large IRA. So they can use those dollars to convert over to a larger Roth IRA. And now those dollars no longer will be taxed in the spouse's lifetime. But then even when that gets passed to the children, those will also be tax-free. So it can perpetuates that for longer. So this is a way to eventually get the dollars that are eventually going to be taxed, and then sort of pay for the taxes to convert them with cheaper dollars using the death benefit from a spouse. So that's just some creative ways to sort of start shifting the tax burden away from things that are going to always be taxable to things that will never be taxed in the future. So those are just some of the basics around the tax advantages of life insurance. And it is a financial tool that the government definitely wants us to use to help protect our families, because obviously if we don't protect our families and something does happen to us, then they do fall in the burden of the government and those around them. So this is why there are certainly incentives around it, and it works in a way that's logical for us. So something to consider as a piece of your financial world, to carve off some tax advantaged assets, and they can be used to help obviously build and grow your wealth over time with tax advantages, and then pass on wealth to the next generations in a very tax advantaged way too. So hopefully this is helpful. I'm going to kind of cut it short there for now. And if you certainly want to learn more about how this might apply to you and your financial life, certainly reach out to us. We'd love to chat with you and see how we can help. So look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Perennial Pride Podcast. Thanks for joining me on this episode today. I really am grateful for you as listeners to the Perennial Pride Podcast. I hope you're getting some tremendous value out of it and hopefully pushing you along your journey to financial freedom. I put this podcast together really to help you get more educated around your finances so that you feel empowered to live the life that you really want. And if you like the content that you heard today or watched, then I would encourage you to go to my website, perennialpride.com. There's tons of other content there. And you can access my book, Wealth Beyond the Numbers. You can buy it there on my website. It's a aggregation of a lot of great tips and tools I've learned to not only build my wealth in my accounts, but build wealth in my life and abundance and joy, and something that has a lot of my experiences in the journey that I've been on personally. Hopefully that can be also of value to you as you sort of move forward. So thanks again for being a Perennial Pride listener, and we'll see you on the next episode.